watch the Apostolic Journey to Verona on May 18th, live on Shalom World.
And volunteers. As those of you watching on television can see, Pope Francis is going to be arriving very soon at the Montorio prison here in Verona. Pope Francis is in Verona today. It's part of a very full schedule of activities that he's coming here and meeting with officials and inmates at the prison. A very warm welcome to you, whether you're joining us via our Vatican News YouTube channel, the Catholic Faith Network in America, Shalom World TV, at Madison TV, EWN TV, Catholic TV, Luminous Radio India, or via any local or diocesan radio station around the world. You can also find this broadcast live right now on our Vatican Media audio app and Vatican News website, which you can access at www.vaticannews.va. So Pope Francis set off this morning from the Vatican in a helicopter at 6:30, and he got to the northern Italian city of Verona at 8 a.m. Verona is perhaps best known as the setting for Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet. And the first thing the Pope did when he got here was he met with priests and religious in the Basilica of St. Zeno. That's a big church there in Verona. He met with them for about 45 minutes and he spoke about confession and forgiveness, and then he went outside the church, and in the square outside the church he met with some children and kind of had a back and forth with them. And then the next big event, which has just finished, was he travelled to the Arena of Verona for an event entitled Arena of Peace, Justice and Peace Will Embrace. That was kind of a long event. There was lots and lots of people. I think the figure was 12,000 people. And there were, so Arena of Peace was the theme. The Pope spoke to various people. There was Vanessa Nakate, an activist from Uganda, a climate activist. There was Mabuba Siraj, a journalist and women's rights activist from Afghanistan, and there was Ken Loach, the British filmmaker who makes films about social justice. And these people had an exchange with the Pope. There were also two friends, one Israeli, one Palestinian, who are activists for peace in the Holy Land. And that was a very big event. It lasted about an hour and a half, and the Pope has just left that and he's on his way now to the Montorio prison. For those of you who are listening on radio and not able to see the images, we're in the sports field of that prison. There's quite a lot of people here, and the Pope has not yet got here, so people are still waiting. There's some music being played as they wait for the Pope to show up. The schedule for the rest of the day is, so after his meeting here with the inmates and officials, the Pope will have lunch with them. That will be after the broadcast, so our broadcast will just show you basically this meeting here in the sports field, and then afterwards the lunch will be off camera, and then once he's finished that lunch, the Pope will go to the Bentegodi Stadium in Verona, and he will celebrate Mass there. And after that he'll head back to the Vatican in a helicopter, so he's heading off at about 4:45 Rome time. That Mass starts at 3 p.m. Italy time. So that's basically the schedule for today. This of course isn't the first visit that the Pope has made to a city in northern Italy. Recently he went to Venice about a month ago for kind of a similar thing. He did, like today, he met with different groups of people and he kind of travelled around the city. He also, like the meeting in the prison that's about to happen, the Pope also visited a prison in Venice. Let me see if I can find you some information about that visit to the prison in Venice. So that The Venice visit was on Sunday the 28th of April, and actually it was the very first stop of his visit was to a women's penitentiary institution, the Giudecca Women's Prison there in Venice. The Pope greeted over 80 of the inmates, as well as prison staff, security and volunteers. He greeted each person one by one, gave a brief address, and then listened very attentively to groups of them as they came forward to thank him and offer gifts that they had made for the occasion. In his address, I can now hear a helicopter, and I'm wondering if the Pope is actually going to be arriving in helicopter. We'll see. Or perhaps he's arriving by car. I imagine actually by car. But anyway, so going back to Venice, in his address, Pope Francis explained to them how he wished to be with them as the first event of his visit to Venice, to assure them that they hold, quote, a special place in his heart, and he suggested that this moment be experienced less as an official visit and more as a special encounter together, where, again I'm quoting, "Thanks be to God, we can give each other time, prayer, closeness and fraternal affection, allowing for precious mutual enrichment." And the Pope added that God knows each one of us, and the Pope said, "Here today we each have something unique to give and to receive that can benefit all of us." The Pope said that it is the Lord who brings us together, and while the paths from which we have arrived in the prison may vary, and some are very painful, also due to mistakes which have led to wounds and scars that each carry within, he said that's okay. And he acknowledged the harsh reality of prison, which he said is also due to overcrowding, the lack of facilities and resources, and incidents of violence. Again, those of you watching on television can see the banners that have been placed out here in the prison in various languages, saying "Welcome, Pope Francis." Some in Italian, some in French. There are detainees here from a very wide diversity of countries. We have some inmates I know from Morocco, some from Poland, some from some parts of sub-Saharan Africa, and we'll hear more about that as the event continues. But yeah, I was saying, in Venice, in that visit to the prison, the Pope said that prison is a harsh reality, and there's a lack of facilities and resources, and also incidents of violence that can add to the difficult reality. But at the same time, he noted that prison can also be a time for moral and physical rebirth, where the dignity of women and men is not left in isolation, but promoted through mutual respect and the nurturing of talents and abilities. The Pope said that sometimes these talents can lie dormant or isolated by life's challenges, but they can re-emerge for the good of all, with due attention and perseverance. And he added that nobody can take away a person's dignity. No one. So if you're just joining us, we're still waiting for the Pope to arrive here in Verona's Montorio prison, in the sports field of the prison. Pope Francis is going to be meeting with officials and inmates from the prison. The Pope has just been celebrating a large meeting called the Arena of Peace, and he's just on his way from the arena now to the prison. And this is something Pope Francis does a lot. He likes to do it when he visits a country or a city. He tried to go to a prison and meet some of the inmates, and it was just reading out some of his remarks in his last visit to an Italian city, which is his visit to Venice. So I'll continue with that. He said that despite it all, prison time can allow for new beginnings through the rediscovery of the undiscovered beauty in us and in others. And the Pope said that this is symbolized by the artistic event you were hosting and the project to which you actively contribute. That's because at the time the Women's Prison in Venice was the site for the Vatican's art exhibition for the Venice Biennale, the big art festival. Prison can become the work site for rebuilding lives, the Pope went on to say, by thinking about one's own life and, with courage, doing away with what is not needed, harmful or dangerous. By planning, one can start again, creating a new foundation, and in light of experience, rebuild brick by brick with determination, he said. The Pope underscored how important it is for prison systems to offer possibilities for human, spiritual cultural and professional growth, that favour healthy reintegration in society, offering new possibilities that will benefit everyone. We have all made mistakes that need to be forgiven and wounds that need to heal, the Pope pointed out. And when that happens, the forgiven can themselves bring forgiveness to others. The reborn can bring rebirth, and the healed can be healers. And in conclusion, the Pope encouraged everyone to renew their trust in the future and always look to the horizon, always look to the future with hope. I like to think of hope as an anchor, he said. You know, it's an anchor that's anchored in the future, and we hold the rope in our hands and go forward with the rope anchored in the future. In thanking this present before leaving, the Pope he handed out copies of an icon of the Blessed Mother and Child, explaining how you can see the tenderness Mary has with all of us, as she is the mother of tenderness. And groups of inmates then came forward to meet the Pope, offering words of gratitude for his visit and expressing hopes for a better future for them and for our world. They gave the Pope fruits of their efforts, working in the prison-run cooperatives, where they produce a variety of goods ranging from soaps, clothing and flowers. So that was the Pope's visit to a prison in Venice recently, and we're now waiting for him to arrive here in the Montorio prison in Verona. So for those of you listening on the radio, there are groups of inmates sitting out here on the sports field, lots of police officers as well standing around, and there's a big stage in the middle where the Pope will soon be arriving, giving a speech from. He's also going to be exchanging some words with two of the officials that help run this prison. So those are, let me see if I can find the names for you. Yeah, so one is going to be Dr. Francesca Gioielli. She's the director of the prison, and he's also going to be addressed by Mario Piramide. He's the director of the penitentiary police.
Però posso fartene un'altra di carina, dai.
And I think there'll also be an exchange with at least one of the inmates here, but we'll see how that develops. So I mentioned earlier that the first thing the Pope did when he arrived was he went to the Basilica of St. Zeno, and then after that he met with some children outside, and he told them that with the joy of Jesus' love and faith you can be peacemakers and you can surpass all difficulties. And that was the kind of the comforting reminder that he offered those children. Again, he's in Verona for one day. It's a very short but very intense pastoral visit to the northern Italian city. And he responded to 3 questions that the children had asked him before leading them in prayer. One of the children asked him how to discern Jesus' voice, and the Holy Father responded by calling the children to recall how great they feel when they do something good and how bad they feel when they do something wrong. The children enthusiastically responded to that, and the Pope explained that the good feeling they experience after doing a good gesture is how they feel as the Lord speaks to them, and that the bad feeling that they have that's what happens when they're doing something which is taking them further away from God. And I've just heard that the Pope should be arriving soon, so we'll be getting underway very soon. He's expected imminently, I've just been informed. Going back to the children, they also asked him how to be peacemakers, and in this context the Pope encouraged them to together be a sign of peace, in which they listen to, share and play with one another without fighting. And then the final question was about maintaining faith even at difficult times, and the Pope noted that yes, life is full of many, many difficulties, and he mentioned the loss of loved ones, especially relatives, and recalled the terrible wars underway, before going on to express his belief that the joy that the Lord gives us consoles us and enables us to push through whatever comes our way. With Jesus at their side, the Pope told the children, they can truly become peacemakers, and he encouraged them to courageously and with faith go against the tide and use their gifts to help others. Don't be afraid to go against the tide if you want to do a good thing. Do you understand? That's what he asked the children. Before some performances by the children, the Holy Father said, let's first pause to pray an Our Father all together, and then he gave his apostolic blessing. This, by the way, this last subject, the one about maintaining faith during the difficulties in life, this is something the Pope has spoken about before, and he has some quite profound words about that. He said that faith doesn't get rid of the difficulties from your life. He says that you're always going to struggle, horrible things are always going to happen to you, and faith in God can't change that, but what it can change is your attitude when faced by these problems, and it can help you to deal with and come through these problems, even if it can't help to prevent them. So as I said, Pope Francis is very imminently expected now at Montorio prison here in Verona. He'll be meeting with officials and with some of the inmates. So that meeting with the children I mentioned was in the church of Saint Zeno. Zeno was a very interesting saint. He's a saint from the 4th century, and he lived in or near Verona, but he's thought to have originally come from Africa. And in some of the documentation that was released ahead of this visit, the Vatican included a quote from Saint Zeno, which serves sort of as the theme for this whole pastoral visit. And the quote from Saint Zeno is this: "True justice is the source and mother of all virtues. She is dedicated to the good of others. Ignoring one's own necessities, she secretly spreads generosity to the poor and the seeds of mercy to the suffering." That's that quote from Saint Zeno, famous saint who lived here in Venice, and it kind of sums up everything that the Pope is trying to do with this visit. Meeting with priests, meeting with children, now coming to the prison.
Io aspetto sempre un ordine, ma vedo che non arriva, quindi noi dobbiamo andare avanti. Che si fa? Andiamo avanti. No,
while we wait for the Pope to arrive, he's running a little bit late. Let's talk a little bit about that first meeting that the Pope had. So the Pope met with priests and religious, kind of from the local area, in that Basilica of St. Zeno. Yeah, he also met with deacons, that's right. So deacons, priests, and consecrated men and women. And as they gathered in what the Pope described as one of Italy's most beautiful Romanesque basilicas, the Basilica of St. Zeno, Pope Francis said that the architecture reminded him of a boat, and that together they were part of the boat of the Lord, navigating the seas of history to spread the joy of the gospel. And with this image of the boat of the gospel in mind, Pope Francis offered 2 reflections on religious life. First of all, the Pope began, "We must welcome the call we have received." He recalled that Jesus, at the beginning of his ministry in Galilee, as he, quote, "walks along the shore of the lake and sets his gaze on a boat and on 2 pairs of fishermen brothers, he approaches and calls them to follow him." So kind of setting the scene with this story from the Gospel, and the Pope invited those present to never forget this image, which he said shows that at the heart of the Christian life is the encounter with the Lord, which comes regardless of personal merits or efforts. In the same way, he continued, at the origins of the consecrated life is the Lord's calling. Pope Francis asked all those gathered to try to never lose the wonder of that calling. It is nurtured by the memory of the gift they received by grace, a memory to keep always alive within us. This is the first foundation of our consecration, of our ministry, he said. So that was the first reflection that the Pope offered on religious life in this meeting with priests, deacons and consecrated women and men. And then the second image, or rather the second reflection that the Pope offered, was on the subject of mission. The Pope emphasized the need for boldness in undergoing mission, and he looked back once again to the image of Jesus as he encountered his disciples on the Sea of Galilee. And now I'm quoting from the Pope, "Boldness is a gift that this church knows well. If there is indeed one characteristic of the priests and religious of Verona, it is precisely that of being enterprising, creative, and capable of embodying the prophecy of the gospel. The Pope went on to celebrate Verona's historical legacy of faith-driven social contributions. He described the legacy as being made up of the numerous witnesses of faith who have been able to unite the proclamation of the word with generous and compassionate service to those in need. And he mentioned in particular the, quote, social creativity that has led to the creation of training schools, hospitals, care homes, shelters, and places of spirituality. Reflecting on St. Zeno's teachings, the Pope reminded those gathered in the basilica that owes its name to him of the perils of normalizing greed and the importance of active charity. The Pope noted that, quote, you have inherited from your history the boldness of a faith in active charity. For this reason, he said, and he quoted the words of St. Paul and asked the congregation to join him in doing so, do not grow weary of doing good. Very famous quotation from St. Paul. Do not give in to discouragement, the Pope continued, adding, be bold in the mission, know how to be today a church that draws near, that heals wounds, that witnesses the mercy of God. And with this in mind, the Pope turned to the priests in the congregation, and addressing them as ministers of the sacrament of penance, he asked, please forgive everything, forgive everything. He asked that they not scrutinize people who come to confession. If you are not capable at that moment of understanding, go ahead. The Lord has understood, but please do not torture the penitents. Focusing a few moments more on the importance of the matter, and here we have Pope Francis. So the Pope is now arriving. He's on the Pope-mobile, which actually you don't a different one to the one that he drives, I think, when he arrives in the Vatican on Wednesday mornings for the general audience. But anyway, the Pope is now arriving. He's so he's now coming to the prison, and so we'll be getting started shortly. For anyone just tuning in, this is Verona's Montorio prison, and the Pope is here as part of his day-long pastoral visit to the northern Italian city of Verona. So the Pope is expected to be welcomed by two officials from the prison who will give speeches that I'll translate into English. The Pope will then himself also give a speech, I think addressed to the inmates here rather than to the staff, and then there might be a response from one of the inmates. We'll see how this develops. And I was saying, of course, that afterwards the Pope will then be having lunch with the people who live and work in this prison. So the Pope now actually entering the sports field of the prison, still on the Pope-mobile. And there's a row of police officers here to greet him. And the inmates now cheering. Looks like the Pope is stopping to shake hands with some of the staff. Still being driven in that Pope-mobile. Yeah, now some of the inmates coming forward, shaking hands with him. The Pope stopping, exchanging a few words with them. So this is a male prison, again, for those of you who don't have the images who are listening on radio. The Pope celebrated recently Mass for Holy Thursday, or Maundy Thursday, in a women-only prison. Today it's a male prison. And the Pope now kind of doing a little tour, or driving around, shaking as many hands as he can, before he then heads up to that stage and we get started. The gentleman sitting in the Pope-mobile with him is, I think, the Bishop of Verona. And these men that you can see in suits around the Pope-mobile are members either of the Swiss Guard, of course not in the traditional costume, or they're members of the Vatican gendarmes, the Vatican police force. Probably a mixture of both. And they're the ones that do security for the Pope when he travels, or even when he's in the Vatican. And we have lots of local police officers from Verona as well, who are here, kind of lining the sides of the of this main approach to the stage. The Pope's now headed onto the stage to get started. There's quite a lot. So it's a normal football field here, and it's fairly full. I'd say there are a couple of hundred between the inmates and the staff. And there's a big concrete wall surrounding the sports field here with guards posted on top of it, and so that's a reminder, of course, that this is a prison. It's a place where criminals are sent, and this, of course, is why the Pope wants to come here. He wants to go to these difficult places, these places where people suffer. And it's, as I was saying earlier, this has really been a thing he's done a lot. He, of course, made history when he, very early on in his pontificate, for Maundy Thursday, for the foot washing, he washed the feet. He went to, I think it was maybe even his very first year as Pope, he went to a prison and washed the feet of prisoners. So this has really been something that's it's clearly very important to him. It really means a lot to him, this opportunity to meet with prisoners and to travel to these difficult and often quite dark places. So the Pope is now just making his way through the last bit of the sports field before he gets to the stage. And I think we'll be getting underway shortly. So as I said earlier, the Pope will now be welcomed by Francesca Gioieni. She's the director of the prison, of the Montorio prison here in Verona, and also by Mario Piramide, who's the director of the police force here in the prison. So they're the two people we're expecting to greet the Pope, and I think they'll both, or certainly the director of the prison, will give a short speech. The Pope will then give a speech directed to the inmates, and then see if there's a response from some of the inmates as well. So actually, I said that the Pope was getting close to the stage, but it looks like he's continuing to drive around in the Pope-mobile. So again, this really shows now he wants to not just come here and give a speech, but he's hoping to see and shake hands with as many of the people here as possible. So I said that he visited a prison in his last visit to an Italian city outside of Rome. That was his visit to Venice a month ago, and then before that he celebrated Mass for Maundy Thursday. There were some quite moving images that came out of that celebration of the Mass. The Pope washed the feet of the female prisoners in it's called Rebibbia prison here in Rome. It's one of the really big prisons. And some very moving scenes, some of the inmates crying as the Pope washed their feet. Just really, really powerful scenes. The Pope was just handed something by one of the inmates. I'm not sure if he was asked to sign it, but something was handed to him. The Pope took hold of it, did something, and gave it back. Pope doing what looks like another loop here. Of course, he's driving in the Pope-mobile, not because he wants to, but he's been suffering from knee problems for a while now. So he actually his mobility, is a little bit limited. He's not able to walk so well. He likes to walk a little bit when he can, but often he's been traveling in a wheelchair. Today it's more practical, I guess, to drive in this little. It's not even a car really, it's too small to be a car, but it's a little I honestly don't know the word for it, but anyway, he's driving around in that. Of course, these mobility problems have made it maybe sometimes a little bit difficult, even for the Pope to do the journeys he likes to do. So the Pope has travelled a lot. Today he's travelled to the northern Italian city of Verona, but he also likes to travel abroad. And many people in his staff have raised concerns about this, and they've told him, maybe because you have these knee problems and these mobility issues, maybe you shouldn't be travelling so much. But the Pope he's really determined to keep doing his international travel as much as he can and for as long as he can. It's been announced that this summer he's making a visit to Asia. He's going to be stopping off in, let me see if I can remember the countries, certainly in Indonesia and Singapore and Timor-Leste, or East Timor as it's sometimes known. Papua New Guinea will be on the agenda as well, and I think there's one more country that's not quite coming to mind. But that's going to be a really big visit. It will be his longest visit abroad ever. It's almost 2 weeks, I think, and of course travelling very far, travelling to some parts of Asia that are pretty remote from Rome, which again, I think it shows how important it is as a Pope. He's now kind of leaning out of his Pope-mobile to make sure he can shake the hand of one of the inmates here. Yeah, but no, I was saying the fact that the Pope is really insisting so much on doing this international travel, it shows how important it is for him to go and meet people and to encounter new cultures. He's the Pope of encounter in a sense. He talks a lot about the importance of the culture of encounter, which is a really rich term that means a lot for him personally. And one of those implications is that it inspires him to do events like the one today. And he's coming in now to encounter these prisoners, not just to arrive and to read a speech and then leave, but he's been travelling around for 5 or 10 minutes now, just shaking hands, waving, speaking, exchanging some words with some of the prisoners here, and that's really very typical of Pope Francis. It's something that's very important to him. There are 526 prisoners in this prison. That's according to the website. And now the Pope is being greeted. And the police officer there has asked the prisoners to give a strong applause and to all clap together for the Pope. Let us welcome the Pope.
Che è stata il retro di nostro 45 giri, una canzone che ci ha portato tanta fortuna, una canzone.
So they're now going to sing a song. That's what's being said. A song which appeals to people of all ages, apparently.
Rivisitata dal nostro gruppo, con una parte scritta in italiano per il Santo Padre. Grazie.
So now a song is going to be sung to welcome the Pope. Let's listen to that song.
Dai ragazzi, un incoraggiamento del pubblico qui, se no...
Benvenuto,
Israel, maestro Corradini. Un applauso ancora.
So that was I Am Sailing by Rod Stewart, with in the beginning something English, and then there were some verses adding Italian saying, "Welcome, Pope Francis, welcome." So that was the way that the inmates here wanted to greet the Pope when he arrived. And now we're back to the English part that we all know so well. The Pope now shaking the hand of the members of the choir that were singing that for him, or maybe just one of them, maybe the band leader. Oh no. And he's been presented with a flower. Lots of the inmates were also waving flowers before. Yeah.
Buongiorno Santità. Buongiorno a lei. Buenos días. Y a todo el mundo.
Good morning, Pope Francis. Good morning, said both in
Che dire, quando capita
both Italian and Spanish.
un evento di questo genere è difficile.
What can you say with an event like this? It's difficult. We all walk together in this adventure,
Così imprevedibile,
this
così fantasmagorica.
unforeseeable adventure.
Siamo alla
We're all
metà del 2024 e noi tutti abbiamo ancora gli occhi accesi. Noi tutti vi ringraziamo
we're a community.
per esserci anche qui. Grazie.
We're all
per
here. We're all watching you, and thank you. Welcome.
Io passerei la parola
I will
alla direttrice,
pass the-
la dottoressa Francesca
I'll pass
Gioielli.
the.
Grazie.
I will let the director of the prison now speak.
Allora, buongiorno a tutti, davvero io ho preparato un discorso.
Good morning, everyone.
Mi è stato chiesto di scriverlo perché altrimenti avrei fatto
I
fatica.
prepared a speech and I've written it
L'ho scritto,
because
però
I wrote it
vediamo.
because otherwise I would have struggled to know what to say. But she says we'll see. We'll see.
Allora, è davvero con grande gioia,
It is
Santità,
with
che noi
great
che le
joy, Your
rivolgo il
Holiness,
nostro proprio più
that
caloroso
I
benvenuto,
extend our warmest welcome to you.
dando per scontato che non ci sono delle parole adatte
I-
o sufficienti
There are no
per poterla
words adequate or
ringraziare
sufficient to
davvero
thank you for
per
the
questo tempo che lei passa
precious
con noi
time
e la sua
that
giornata
you
sappiamo
are
che è veramente
dedicating
molto
to us
intensa.
on this
Quindi,
long and intense day in Verona.
grazie, a nome
So
di tutti.
thank you in the name of everyone. This is the director of the prison speaking.
Io spero, ma credo
I-
che ci siamo riusciti
I hope and I
a
think we
farvi
managed
arrivare
it
veramente un abbraccio in
to
questa comunità.
that when you arrived you were really
E anche
embraced
per
by this
il
community,
tempo che ancora passeremo insieme.
and also in the rest of the time
Per
that we'll
poter
spend
condividere
together,
con lei la
to
gioia,
spend with you,
ma soprattutto testimoniare, grazie a
so
lei,
to spend
la
a
vita
moment of
che
joy
scorre in queste-
with
tra
you,
queste mura. Perché tra
and to
queste
share the
mura
joy of
scorre
witnessing
la vita.
to the life that flows within these walls.
La nostra missione è questa:
This is our mission,
intercettare e
to
accompagnare dei
intercept
percorsi di
and
vita,
accompany life
cercando
paths,
ogni giorno,
striving
con ogni sforzo,
every day and with
di
every
non
effort
essere un
not to be
carcere abitato da
a prison
carcerieri,
inhabited by
di
jailers and
carcerati,
inmates,
ma un luogo
but
dove,
a place
nel
where,
rispetto delle regole che servono per
while respecting
consentire a
those
una comunità
rules
così grande
that
di
allow
poter
the coexistence of such
pacificamente,
a large and
e
multi-ethnic
soprattutto una
community,
comunità così grande e multietnica, perché noi abbiamo 40
because
paesi del mondo qui
there are
rappresentati
40
oggi,
countries from the world represented here.
in maniera tale che ciascuno possa trovare uno spazio,
And we do this so that everyone can find a space
una
for
mano
listening,
tesa,
an outstretched
uno
hand,
sguardo
a glance
che dica:
that says,
io ti vedo
I see you,
e non mi volto
and I
dall'altra
will
parte.
not turn away.
So che ci sei
I know you are here,
e proverò a cercare
and I
le
will try
risposte per
to find answers for you
insieme a te.
together with you.
È vero, Santità,
It's
quando si
true,
parla di
Your Holiness,
carcere,
when we talk
quando
about
ci
prison,
domandano del carcere,
when
del
we're
nostro
asked
lavoro,
about prison
noi
and
facciamo
our
veramente
work here,
fatica a rendere credibile
we
il nostro
really
impegno
struggle to
e le nostre
make our
capacità.
commitment and
Ancora
capabilities
ieri
credible.
qualcuno mi ha fatto la
Just
stessa
yesterday,
domanda che mi fanno da
someone
26
asked me the
anni.
question that I've been
Mi
hearing for
incontrano
26
e mi
years.
domandano: Perché ha scelto di fare
Why did you
questo
choose to
lavoro?
do this job?
Anche ieri me l'hanno fatto.
Even just yesterday they asked
Io
me
in
that.
tutti questi anni, e 26
In
sono tanti,
all these years, and 26
ho
is a lot of
cercato
years,
veramente di trovare le
I've
risposte più
tried to
articolate,
give
più convincenti.
increasingly
Ma il
articulated
risultato è
and
stato sempre lo stesso.
convincing answers to this question, but the
Non
result has always been the same.
O forse non vogliono
They
capire.
do not understand, or perhaps they do not want to
Io
understand.
devo dire la verità che stamattina
But
all'improvviso quando
suddenly, this morning,
pensavo
I realized
come
that
provare
the
a
only answer
dare le risposte a
that I
questa
could
domanda,
give, and I will give from now on, and it came to me suddenly, spontaneously,
io non devo più cercare la risposta a
I
questa
don't
domanda,
have to-
io devo rispondere con un'altra
I don't even have to
domanda.
think how to
Perché no?
reply to it. I reply with a different question.
Non
Why
deve
not?
farlo questo lavoro.
Why shouldn't I have
Che
chosen
domanda
it?
Perché mi fate sempre questa
Why
domanda?
do you always
Perché
ask me
non
this
avrei
question?
dovuto scegliere?
Why shouldn't I have chosen it?
Tutti che cosa mi rispondono? Ma non è pericoloso, ma lei è
People
una
reply to me
donna.
saying, "Oh, but it's dangerous. It's not a job for a
È difficile,
woman.
è un lavoro
It's
difficile,
difficult."
complicato. Alla fine sono tanti
These
giri
are
di parole
many
che utilizzano
convoluted ways to avoid
per
saying
non
what they
dire quello
really
che
think,
veramente pensano.
which
E
is that,
cioè, loro pensano, perché
and
avete
here's what they
deciso
think.
di occuparvi di chi merita di essere solo
They think,
punito?
why have we chosen to take care of those who only deserve to be punished? That's what they think. And that gets an applause not only from the inmates but also from the Pope.
Alla fine di tutti i discorsi,
At the end of
per
all the
l'opinione pubblica, il
discussions,
mondo si deve dividere
the
in
world
maniera molto
must
semplice
be
tra
divided
i buoni da una parte, i
for
cattivi
public opinion
dall'altra, i
between good and
giudicanti
bad,
e i giudicati.
judges and judged.
E che cosa accade?
And what
Che noi che
happens?
siamo nella terra
That
di mezzo
we who are in the middle
non veniamo
ground
considerati.
don't deserve
Non
consideration.
siamo giudicanti, noi qui non giudichiamo nessuno,
We don't judge anybody here.
non tocca a noi. E se lo facessimo non
It's not our
riusciremo
place to judge
a
people, and
lavorare
even
in
if we
maniera
did,
corretta
we would not
e
be
a
able to
vivere
work and live
questo lavoro che poi
so
rappresenta
many of our
tutti
days
quelli che
here,
lavorano tanta
side by
parte
side.
della propria vita quotidiana, perché qui dentro passiamo tanto tempo. Abbiamo grandi numeri, tante persone,
There are large
differenti
numbers of
etnie,
inmates, there are different
lingue
ethnicities and
diverse,
languages,
ma quello che facciamo è che
but we base
improntiamo
every
ogni
single
singola
action
azione
and decision
o
on
decisione
respect for the dignity.
al rispetto della dignità di ogni detenuta o detenuto che a noi viene affidato.
We base every single action and
Questo è un lavoro
decision
che noi scegliamo
on
ogni
respect
giorno.
for the dignity of the
O
inmate
che forse
entrusted to us.
sceglie lui noi ogni giorno.
It's a job
E sa
that we
quando
choose
accade.
every day, or that
Tutte
chooses
quelle volte
us
che
every
durante la
day,
giornata sono tantissime,
and that
in cui
chooses
ci
us
viene
every
detto un
time
grazie.
we receive in return
O ci
a thank
viene
you
lasciato
or a
un
smile.
sorriso. Perché questo accade molto di più di quello che tutti immaginano.
This happens much
Con la
more than
forza della
people
sua presenza
imagine.
qui, santità,
With the
secondo me,
strength
Dio
of
non
your
si
presence
fiuta,
here,
cioè
holiness,
portare fuori da queste
you will
mura
help us
un
to
messaggio
bring out
tanto
from these
forte
walls
quanto
a message
semplice.
that is both strong
L'altro
and simple.
esiste, l'altro
The
è
other
parte di
exists.
noi come comunità,
The other is a part
città,
of us as a
nazione.
community, a city,
L'altro magari
or a
parla
nation.
un'altra lingua.
The other maybe speaks a
Si
different
rivolge a
language,
Dio in una maniera diversa da quella che
addresses
facciamo
God
noi.
in another way,
E ha mostrato tutta le sue fragilità, i
shows-
suoi limiti umani,
and has
perché ha
showed
violato la legge
fragility
penale.
in human limits by violating criminal law.
Ma non per questo gli possiamo
But
negare
we cannot
l'umanità.
deny them humanity and dignity
Noi
for
qui
this reason.
dentro, tutti così come ci vede,
We
incontriamo
in here
ogni giorno
meet
occhi,
eyes,
sguardi,
gazes, and
sofferenza
suffering,
e anche tanti sorrisi.
and also many smiles.
Ascoltiamo storie di
We
vita in
listen
cui spesso
to life
mancano i
stories
legami
where family
familiari
ties are often
e la
lacking
solitudine
and
molto spesso è
loneliness
stata la
has been a
costante.
constant.
Ma una cosa è certa,
But
noi
one
non
thing is sure,
voltiamo lo
we
sguardo.
never turn away. Never. And the Pope is again joining in the applause from the inmates here. That these very powerful words from the prison director.
E per concludere,
And to conclude,
allora, una cosa è certa, che il
one thing is
passato
sure,
di tutte queste persone,
that the
di
past
queste
of all
donne,
these
di questi
people, all
uomini,
these
è certo,
women and
c'è
men,
già stato. E il futuro invece va costruito.
the past has
Nel
happened,
futuro
but the
bisogna
future needs
continuare
to
a
be
credere per non
built.
perdere la speranza. Bisogna avere qualcosa in cui credere ogni
But
giorno
it takes
ad
courage to
ogni
do this job.
risveglio. E quindi abbiamo pensato
And
già
so,
dallo scorso autunno
even last
di provare
autumn we were thinking about
riflettere tutti
to
insieme,
try,
come se fosse un giorno,
all of us together,
come riempire una frase
to
che comincia
think
così:
how
io
to
credo in.
finish off
Ed
a
è
sentence that starts
nato
like
un
this:
movimento di
I believe
opinioni.
in.
Ognuno ha detto così
And
spontaneamente
so
in che
everybody
cosa
said,
credeva. E tutte queste
everyone filled
parole
this sentence in.
sono state
And all these
portate su una
words
enorme parete che
Were
poi
put
spero
on a huge
avremo modo di
wall,
farvi
which hopefully we'll be able to show you.
realizzate, devo dire, con una grande maestria e anche in
It
modo
was
tale che
done
ti
actually really well, I have to say,
fermarti a riflettere.
and it really forces you to
E
reflect.
sono tutte le
And that all
parole
the words
che raccontano i valori o le cose che sono importanti
and,
per ogni
and the
essere
words that
umano,
talk about the things that are important for every human being. They're really universal, that's the other thing. And so, in the name of everybody, on behalf of everyone, women and men of the penitentiary police, administrative staff, volunteers, teachers, doctors, nurses, volunteers, thank you.
Degli insegnanti che hanno aiutato e aiutano ogni giorno dei percorsi di formazione professionale. C'è tanta gente che ogni giorno
with the formation here.
Ma noi ne vorremmo di più. Noi ne vorremmo ancora di più.
And there are many people working here, but we want more. We need more.
Per fare questo lavoro ci vuole coraggio.
To do this job, you need courage.
Ma
It's true.
le parole di un mio caro collega,
to paraphrase
soprattutto tanto cuore.
To paraphrase the words of one of my colleagues, what you really need is a lot of heart.
Le difficoltà quotidiane che sono tantissime, è davvero una sfida.
It's really difficult to keep courage to do this.
Potremo andare
And
avanti,
only
quindi preghi per noi.
with your prayers will we be able to continue this job. So thank you. Thank you. The Pope now rising to his feet to shake hands and thank the prison director, exchanging a few words, smiling.
E adesso diamo il benvenuto al nostro utente Duarte.
And now they're introducing one of the inmates. His name is Eduardo, and he's also going to read a speech. He says, "Good morning, everyone. Good morning, guys. Not good morning. Good.
Carissimo Papa Francesco,
Hello. It's not the morning anymore.
Sono un po' emozionato.
Pope Francis,
Io mi chiamo Leonardo Duarte.
I'm a bit emotional,
Le parlo a nome di tutte le detenute
and
e di tutti i detenuti.
I'm speaking on behalf of all the
Diamo il
inmates.
benvenuto in mezzo a noi.
And welcome here among us.
Ad oggi
Today,
siamo 592
there are
persone
592 inmates here
provenienti dalle più
from
diverse regioni
all
del mondo.
corners of the world,
Dall'Italia,
from Italy
dal Marocco,
to Morocco,
dall'Albania,
from Albania
dalla
to
Nigeria,
Nigeria,
dall'India,
from
al
India
Pakistan,
to Pakistan,
alla
and
Romania,
to Romania,
dalla Tunisia,
and from
alla
Tunisia to
Polonia,
Poland,
dalla Costa d'Avorio
from the Ivory Coast
al
to
Guatemala,
Guatemala,
dalla Moldavia
from
allo Sri
Moldova
Lanka.
to Sri Lanka.
In pratica, Santità,
Basically, Your
siamo uno
Holiness,
spaccato del mondo.
we're a cross-section of the
Manca
entire
solo
world.
l'estremo oriente.
We're only missing the Far East.
Io sono uno tra
I
i
am
detenuti più
one of the
giovani
youngest detainees,
e credo
and
di
I
poter
believe
parlare a nome
I can speak on behalf of everyone
dicendo che
by
nessuno
saying
mai
that
dimenticherà
none of
un
us
giorno speciale
will ever
insieme a
forget
voi.
this day with you for the rest of our lives.
Abbiamo visto che
We've seen that
lei
you
ci sta
are
dedicando il tempo più
dedicating
lungo
the longest time to us
fra i vari impegni
among
di
the
questa sua
various
giornata
engagements
qui
of your
a
visit
Verona.
here in Verona.
Ci riempie di gioia
And this
e
fills
commozione
us with joy and emotion,
perché così lei ci sta
because
dicendo
in this
che
way
i suoi occhi
you are telling
la
us
nostra vita è
that
preziosa.
our life is precious in your eyes.
Ad oggi ci sentiamo
Today,
spesso giudicati
we often feel
ed
judged
esclusi
and
dalla società
excluded by
civile.
civil society.
Speriamo tanto
We hope
che
so
questa
much
sua presenza,
that your presence,
santità,
Your Holiness,
apre i cuori
will
e
open
le
the hearts
menti
and minds
del mondo esterno
of the outside
per
world
accoglierci
to
come
welcome
liberi
us
cittadini
as free citizens
dopo che avremo
after we have
riparato
made
agli errori
amends
commessi.
for the mistakes that we committed.
Santo Padre,
Holy Father,
nei prossimi giorni,
in the coming days,
forse per il resto della nostra
perhaps for the rest of our
vita,
lives,
racconteremo ai nostri familiari
we will tell our
le
families
emozioni di questa
about the
giornata con
emotions of this day with you.
lei. La famiglia per noi è un
Family,
elemento
for
di
us,
speranza
is an element of hope,
e ci aiuta
and it helps us
a restare
to
legati
stay
al mondo
connected
esterno.
to the outside world.
Alcuni di noi purtroppo
Some of us,
non hanno la
unfortunately,
fortuna di avere una famiglia,
do not have the fortune of having a family
oppure degli affetti
as a reference point
vicini che possano
or
sostenerli.
close affections which can
Per
support
questo
them.
motivo, Santità,
For this reason, Your Holiness,
mi permetto di esprimerle
I
un
dare
sogno.
to express a dream to you.
Sarebbe
It
bellissimo
would be
se
wonderful
tra noi persone
if,
detenute,
among us detainees
con tutti gli operatori
and
penitenziari,
all the prison staff,
sia coloro che si
both those
occupano
who are
della
responsible for
sicurezza, che
security
quelli ci accompagnano
and
nel
those who
nostro
accompany
cammino
us on our
umano.
human journey,
Ed anche con
and
tutti
also
i
with all the
volontari,
volunteers,
potessimo
we could build
costruire
relationships
anche quei rapporti
that
che
smack
abbiano il profumo di
that
famiglia,
smack
di amicizia
of
e di
family,
fratellanza.
friendly, friendship and brotherhood.
Credo che queste immagini della sua
believe
presenza in mezzo a
that
noi,
these images of your
queste
presence
nostre
among us,
povere parole,
that these poor
saranno
words of
viste
ours
da tante persone
will be seen
in
by
tutto il
many
mondo.
people all over the world.
Speriamo che questo aiuti
We
molti
hope
a
that this will
vederci
help many
come
to see
persone
us
e non
as
solo come
people
autori di reato.
and not just as perpetrators of
Speriamo
crimes.
anche che queste immagini
We also
possano
hope that
raggiungere
these
tante altre
images
detenute
can reach
e
many
detenuti
other
in tutti i
detainees
paesi.
in all countries
ai quali
who have
non hanno
not
avuto la
had the
grazia di
grace
averlo in
of
mezzo a
having
loro,
you among
che
them,
possano rallegrarsi
so that
e
they
gioire
can
insieme a
rejoice
noi.
and celebrate with
Santità,
us.
Sinoviezza e Goro.
Your Holiness, you're a piece of our heart. And he goes forward and shakes hands with the Pope, smiling. And he ends by kissing the Pope's ring there. Very, very moving, very touching
Adesso diamo la
scenes.
parola al Santo Padre.
And now the Pope will speak.
Duarte, sei emozionato? Dobbiamo drammatizzare qua. Come disse il califfo, non esclude il ritorno. C'è il ritorno, sì.
The policeman here is saying that the Pope was affected by that speech and is taking a moment to prepare. Dear sisters and brothers, good morning.
Ringrazio la signora direttrice
I
per la
thank
sua
the
accoglienza,
director for her welcome
il senso dell'umorismo,
and for her sense of humour
il sorriso fa
and
tanto bene.
her smile, which does a lot of good.
Ringrazio tutti voi
And
per
also
il
all
calore,
of
la
you
festa,
for the
l'affetto che
warmth,
mi mostrate.
joy and affection that you have shown
Un saluto va
me.
inoltre a tutti
A
coloro che
greeting
lavorano
also goes
in
to all
questo
those
istituto.
who work in this institution,
Custodia,
custodial
educatori,
officers,
operatori sanitari,
educators,
personale
healthcare workers,
amministrativo, volontari.
administrative staff and volunteers.
Anche voglio salutare a tutti coloro che stanno guardando dalle finestre.
And I also want to
Un saluto
greet all
a
of those who are
tutti voi.
watching from the windows. And that gets a big
Ci
applause.
tenevo
I was
Ci tenevo
really
molto a
keen
incontrarvi
to meet you all
tutti
together.
insieme. Per me
For me,
entrare in un carcere è
entering a
sempre un
prison
momento importante,
is always an important moment
perché il carcere
because
è un luogo
prison
di grande umanità.
is a place of great
Sì, è
humanity.
un luogo di grande
It's a
umanità.
place of great humanity,
Umanità provata,
a humanity that is tested,
talvolta affaticata
sometimes
da difficoltà,
burdened by difficulties,
sensi di colpa,
guilt,
giudizi,
judgments,
incomprensioni,
misunderstandings and
sofferenze,
suffering,
ma nello stesso
but
tempo
at the same time
carica di
full
forza,
of strength,
di desiderio di
of a
perdono,
desire for
di
forgiveness,
voglia di
and the will
riscatto,
to redeem
come
oneself,
ha detto Duarte nel suo discorso.
like Eduardo
E in questa
said in his
umanità
speech.
qui in tutti voi,
And in this
in
humanity
tutti noi,
here,
è presente oggi
in
il
all
volto
of
di
you,
Cristo, il
in
volto
all of
del
us,
Dio
the face of
della
Christ is
misericordia
present today,
e del perdono.
the face of the
Non
God of
dimenticate
mercy
questo.
and forgiveness.
Dio
Let us
perdona tutto
Forget
e
this.
perdona
God forgives
sempre.
everything, and He always
E in
forgives.
questa umanità qui in tutti voi,
And in this
in
humanity
questo
here in all
senso
of you,
di guardare il Dio della
I have
misericordia.
this sensation of
Conosciamo la
seeing
situazione delle
the God of
carceri,
mercy.
spesso sovraffollate
We
nella
know the
mia
situation of
pure,
the prisons, which are often
non
overcrowded
conseguenti tensioni
with
e fatiche.
consequent tensions and
Per questo
hardships.
voglio dirvi
For this reason,
che vi
I
sono
want to tell you
vicino.
that I am close to
Rinnovo
you,
l'appello
and I
specialmente
renew my
a
appeal,
quanti possono
especially
agire
to those who can
in
act
questo ambito
in
affinché
this area,
si
that they
continui a lavorare
continue working for the
per il
improvement
miglioramento della vita
of
carceraria.
life in prison.
Una volta
One time,
una signora
una
che
a lady
lavorava
who-
nelle carceri
who
e
worked in prisons,
aveva un bel rapporto
she had a good relationship
con le detenute per un carcere femminile.
with the inmates in this woman's
Una
prison.
mamma di famiglia, molto umana la signora. Mi ha
A
detto
great
che
woman.
lei
She
era devota di una
told
santa.
me that she was devoted to a saint.
Ma quale santa?
But which saint? It's a female saint.
Santa Porta.
Santa Porta,
Perché è la porta della speranza.
So porta means gate in Italian, and she is the gate of hope. So I invite all of you to look at this gate of hope. There is no human life without losing. There is no human life without horizons. Please don't lose those horizons. Always look towards the gate of hope. We know the situation of prisons, often overcrowded with consequent tensions, and for this reason, I want to tell you that I'm close to you. And I learned recently that some people, in an extreme gesture, some of the inmates here ended their lives. This is a terrible act, one that only unsustainable despair and pain can lead to. Therefore, while I join in prayer with the families and all of you, I want to invite you not to give in to discouragement, but always look towards the door as the door of hope. Life is always worth living, and there is always hope for the future, even when everything seems to be draining away. Our existence, the existence of each one of us, is important. It is important. We're not material to be thrown. We're not material that's been thrown away. Each one of us is important. And our life is a unique gift for us and for others, for everyone, and especially for God, who never abandons us, and who indeed knows how to listen, rejoice, and weep with us. With Him by our side, we can overcome despair and live each moment. And as the director said, she said, God is one. Our cultures told us to call Him with one name or another, call him in different names, but He's one God. He's the Father of all. And all religions, all cultures look towards one God who never abandons us. And with Him by our side, we can overcome despair and live each moment as the right time to start again. Start again.
C'è una bella canzone piemontese.
There is a nice song, a nice Piemontese song,
Cercherò di tradurla in
which I'll
italiano.
try to translate into Italian, which says this.
La cantano
Gli
alpini.
The Alpini, the Alpine, the people who go into the Alps, sing it.
Quello che importa non è non cadere.
When you go down the mountain, the important thing is not to fall, but it's not to stay down, not to stay fallen. And to all of us who work in this prison, even as volunteers, to all of you, I say one thing. It's only acceptable to look down on someone, only in one circumstance, when you're helping them to get up.
Perciò nei momenti peggiori,
therefore, in the worst moments, let's not close in on ourselves. Let's talk to God about our pain and help each other to bear it. We're among companions on the journey and with the good people we find by our side. It is not weakness to ask for help. Let's do it with humility and trust. It's humanity. We all need each other, and we all have the right to hope beyond any history or any mistake or failure. It's a right. Hope is a right, and it never lets you down. In a few months, the Holy Year will begin, a year of conversion, renewal, and liberation for the whole Church, a year of mercy, in which to lay down the burden of the past and renew momentum toward the future, in which to celebrate the possibility of change to be, and where necessary, to return to being truly ourselves, giving our very best. Let this also be a sign that helps us to rise again and take back with confidence our lives every day. Dear friends, thank you for this meeting. Let me be honest, it's good for me. You're really helping me. Let us continue to walk together, because love unites us beyond any kind of distance. I remember you in my prayers, and I ask you, please, to pray for me. Pray for me, not against me. And don't forget, when you're going down, the important thing is not to fall, but not to stay down. Thank you. Thank you very much. And this won't be forgotten. This won't be forgotten. So now we have 2 presents on behalf of everyone. The first one is very simple. It's a box of thoughts. There are letters and things like that. And Federica is going to bring it. So Federica, who is here in the prison with us, but she has some children at home, and she manages to go and see them on Sundays. I said, by the way, at the beginning of the broadcast that this is a men's-only prison, but that was a mistake. There are women here too. So now Federica is bringing this box of thoughts to the Pope. She presents it to the Pope, and it's taken by one of his helpers, and Federica exchanges a few words with the Pope. And the second gift, she says, I always forget this guy's name. But this is the I was saying before, the I believe in. And so these are murals where everyone is filled in what they believe in. So they're being taken out of this paper that they're wrapped in and about to be presented to the Pope.
Spiegate come si legge, perché io ogni volta ci metto un sacco di tempo. Questo lavoro l'hanno fatto con il professor Saggioro, che ringraziamo.
She's telling the inmates to explain to the Pope how to read the mural, because she says it's a bit confusing. So that's now being presented to the Pope. He's looking at it, and they're explaining it. The Pope hands out a rosary to the inmate that was presenting with the thing, and he's now speaking to a second inmate who's brought him what looks like another one of... No, this is a letter. So that inmate presenting with a letter. And these are the gifts that we wanted to give to you, says the prison director. Now I will give... Now I will give a gift to the prison and to the director. And this gift is a virtue that God has that we forget about, because God has 3 main virtues: closeness, compassion, and tenderness. God is close. He's close to all of us. He's compassionate. And God is tender. I thought about tenderness, which people don't talk about a lot, but when I was making this present, I thought about tenderness. And this is Mary with Jesus as a child. And it's now being shown to the inmates. Another round of applause. The idea is that this icon of Mary with the child Jesus shows tenderness. And I was thinking, the Pope says, that Mary is a common figure. It's common in Christianity and in Islam.
Una figura comune.
She's a common figure.
A tutti che ci unisce.
And hopefully it can bring us all together.
Adesso
and now
un attimino
a moment
vorrei darvi la
I would like to give you a
benedizione,
blessing,
ma la darò in
so I
silenzio,
give it in silence,
così ognuno riceve di Dio nella modalità che crede.
and
Un
everyone
minuto di
can
silenzio
receive
e
the
do la
blessing from God
benedizione a tutti
in the
voi.
way that they believe it. And
Che il Signore vi benedica,
may the
vi
Lord bless
aiuti ad
you,
andare avanti
may
sempre,
He help you
vi
always to go
consoli
forward,
nella tristezza,
may He console
e
you
sia
in
il vostro
sadness,
compagno
and
nella
may
gioia.
He be your
Amen.
companion in joy. Amen.
Noi la salutiamo.
So that wasn't the normal blessing, which would be the name of the Father, Son and Holy Spirit. The Pope, aware that some of the
Buon pranzo
inmates here
e
are Muslims.
arrivederci.
Have a good lunch and goodbye, the Pope says.
Mentre scendiamo dal palco le dedicano un'altra canzone e poi glieli facciamo salutare tutti i nostri
And
artisti.
the prison director is saying that as the Pope leaves the stage, they will sing another song. This is Alleluia. And some of the inmates now shout, shout, Grazie, thank you. This is a version of Leonard Cohen's Alleluia.
Questo mondo un giorno cambierà, dal cielo Dio ci aiuterà con il suo amore, la sua bontà. Presto un grande uomo mancherà. Quest'uomo sei tu, santità, la tua parola risuonerà in queste mura dove c'è silenzio. Alleluia, alleluia. Tutti insieme dai. Alleluia, alleluia. Averti qui è una gioia che spiegartela è difficile, ma so che dentro di te tu la sentirai. E forse in queste anime che sono qui di fronte a te un tuo segnale aspettano, perché fiducia, Padre, abbiamo in te, le mani alzate, guardando il cielo, cantiamo tutti insieme, alleluia, 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 alleluia. Averti qui è una gioia che spiegartela è difficile, ma di sicuro tu la sentirai. E tutte queste anime che sono qui di fronte a te un tuo segnale aspettano, perché fiducia,
And the Pope just taking a moment now to greet some of the singers and some of the other people that have helped this event to run smoothly. I think he was supposed to go off the stage while the song was playing, but he wanted to stay and listen to the song and also thank the singers and the musicians. So that's what he's doing now. He's taking a moment to shake all their hands, say hello. A few people are shouting "Viva el Papa," which means "Long live the Pope." Those shouts are coming from down in the sports field where the inmates are. And the Pope's still exchanging some words with some of the staff and some of the singers here. And then he'll get into that wheelchair and be taken off to lunch. He's going to be eating lunch in the prison. I don't know with whom. I don't know if some of the inmates are going to be there or if it'll just be the staff. So as the Pope prepares to get into that wheelchair and go, that brings to an end this live broadcast of Pope Francis meeting with correctional officers, detainees and volunteers here at Verona's Montorio prison. The Pope is now leaving the stage. We had lots of really powerful and moving moments here. The Pope gave a really inspiring speech, but we also heard from the director of the prison and from Eduardo, who's a young inmate here. And they spoke about many different things, but maybe a connecting theme was hope, and this idea that prisons can be dark places, but you should hold on to hope and keep striving for a better future. If you want to listen back to this event at any time, you can find it on our Vatican News YouTube channel. It will be up there shortly. And on our Vatican News website, where you can also find summaries of everything that the Pope has been doing recently. There's lots at the moment about this trip to Venice, which is still going on. You can find us at www.vaticannews.va, and you can also find us on Facebook, X and Instagram. Just search Vatican News. I'm Joseph Tulloch. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can tune in again at about 3 p.m. Rome time. So after the Pope has had lunch, we'll be celebrating Mass here in Verona in a big stadium. If you want to follow that, our broadcast will be starting at about 3 p.m. Rome time. You can find it on the channels I mentioned before. For now, that's all. Thank you very much. Laudate Jesus Christus. Praised be Jesus Christ.
Years of sharing the peace of Christ. Shalom World, God's own channel.